So yeah, I saw there was a joke that you said a while back because I was going back through my computer and organizing. I'm so annoyed by how I organize things, which is to say the shit doesn't work well. Like I get done with a podcast and instead of taking the files on the camera and taking the file on Zoom and combining them together, putting them where they need to go, I'll fuck off and do something else. And then
Whoops.
and then before I know it, there's a task that causes me trouble later on in the day or in the
I think
week.
I'm like that, but magnified by 50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's fucking ridiculous, dude. It's getting
I have
ridiculous.
I have a student who's a captain in the military, and he's by nature a very scattered, zany, wild man.
Yeah.
He's like he's our kind. All right.
And he's a
He's our
captain in the military.
and he's a captain in the military, but
Jesus.
he's learned through his training because he started in the military when he was 18 right out of high school
Yeah.
to become you know, organized, but he told me straight up like it's not my nature. Like he has another captain that works in the same company. I don't know how you divide it up, like there's series and companies and I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, he's in charge of like 200 guys, and the other captain's in charge of another 200 guys, and they both work on the same place. And he's like, he's the water, I'm the fire. Like that other guy is very organized,
Yeah.
but he doesn't think of himself as very organized. But this guy is the most organized student I've ever had teaching English.
And he doesn't think of himself as organized.
Correct.
That's interesting. Right.
He has his shit together,
Yeah.
and I teach his lessons over at his place, and his wife is there, and she's a captain too. And their place is very well organized and clean and nice, and they
Yeah.
they keep it together. They keep like they have it appears to me in general they have a very well organized way of getting things done.
Yeah.
And his English lessons really show that. And I don't know what it is, but I suspect that it's got to do with years and years of um, organization being kind of like there's no option. Like you're in the
Yeah.
military, you have to be organized or you're out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like for myself, I get similar feedback just in life. And it's like I'm trying to accomplish things and I'm realizing that if I'm not organized, shit just doesn't work well.
Hmm.
I mean, it works fine. Like some people are totally scattered. I mean, like, probably you think you're bad.
Yeah,
Like some people are fucked up. Like, I don't know, if we take it to the extreme, I don't know, you have like hoarders and
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
just like, that's way and it's just not it's like not functional. And
Right.
so as I endeavor to be more and more functional, the principle of functionality starts to kick me in the teeth because it says, hello, son, you're not fucking organized. And I'm like, oh, but I don't want to be or
Yeah, and
whatever.
you're up to more like I imagine like the more like some people don't like if you're the Big Lebowski,
Yeah.
you don't need a lot of functionality. Like you just need to make your way to the bowling alley and to the to the drug dealer and like you don't have to do a lot, right?
Right.
But if you are trying to do something or you're engaged in projects and you've got all kinds of stuff going on, then yeah, you need organizational ability
Yeah.
sufficient enough for those projects.
Yeah. There's a relationship between power and organization, seems.
Hmm.
Depending on what it is I want to be powerful at. I mean, the Big Lebowski is very powerfully a cool dude. Okay. But he still needs to have milk in his fridge and vodka in there and Kahlua and cream and
I think
ice.
I think he's just independently wealthy. I don't think the movie ever addresses how the hell he has that
Right.
nice house. He just inherited a shit ton of money and he
Right.
just doesn't spend much because he
Yeah.
doesn't want anything except just
But
Kahlua.
I'm just saying he still needs there's like a supply chain. If
Right.
you want those white Russians, bro, you got to have all the shit in line to have those white Russians. You got to
Yeah.
anyway, so there it's like there's something to it and I'm just noticing some of my limitations and then getting confronted by my limitations and then having to go, "Fuck, Brendan, you got to learn."
Well, I want to confront you today with some of your limitations, but in a
Perfect.
I mean it in a very positive sense. I
I'm
have a
sure you do. I'm sure you do and I love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. We're here. I'm Brendan Lee. I'm here with John.
howdy.
He says hi. All right.
No,
So,
I say howdy.
oh,
It's
excuse
not
me.
the same thing.
They're not the same. Um, do you know the difference between toilet paper and curtains?
Buddy, I've asked you the same question.
I know. That's what I wanted to share.
All
That's
right. All right. No.
gross. Or it's what's the difference between toilet paper and curtains? I don't know.
I
Gross.
don't know. I don't
Gross. Okay, yeah. So
know.
I was going back through the past podcasts, getting organized. This
Hmm.
is why I brought it up, and I found that because I heard that joke on Instagram the other day. I'm like, oh, that's a good one, and then I went back and sure as shit, you already had said it, the
Sure
same
as
one.
shit.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
um, so
So,
quick
go ahead.
recap before you get going. Uh,
Hmm.
mission accomplished on my end.
Aha.
We're on Libsyn. We're on Libsyn, which means we should be up on Apple Podcasts. I still need to do some stuff for Spotify, but we're actually on a normal podcasting platform. So
Okay, so people can just listen in.
yes, they should be able to. I haven't checked it. I have not verified, but go over to Apple Podcasts, try to find it. The Brendan Lee podcast. That's what we're going for.
Cool. I wanted to ask you,
Did you talk to the
um,
cops with that two-leg
uh,
takedown thing?
oh no, I haven't. I
Oh,
haven't. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My son and I were and Eliza, we what did we do? We watched this movie called, you've seen it or maybe you've heard of it, Hidalgo.
yes, heard of it.
Um yeah, apparently it's based on a it's based on a true story.
Yeah.
There was this race in Arabia that's been going on forever, and it's like 3,000 mile horse race across the desert, and it killed lots and lots of people and
Holy
horses.
shit. Yeah.
And it was always won by the best well-bred horses in the world, and these people are very, very proud of their skill at horse riding and also of their
Yeah.
horses. And it ended up getting won by a cowboy who was half Cherokee or something, and was riding a wild Mustang.
That's pretty badass. And this
And
is like
it's,
a true based on a true story.
yeah, it's based on a true story. And this dude won
That makes
tons
makes it
of
cool.
yeah, he won tons of horse races in America, and then he went over and won this one, and then he took the money and went back home. They never saw him
That's cool. That's pretty sweet. Yeah,
again.
I've heard
Anyway,
about it. I know it's Viggo Mortensen, and I've heard about it,
yeah,
haven't seen it.
and I don't know how true it is to, like, they have a little blurb at the end. Point is, it's a cowboy, and there's a couple scenes, or at least one, where he uses a lasso, you know, as a weapon.
Okay.
And we went from there, and we went and watched some rodeo stuff. My son and I, sometimes we watch some rodeo stuff where they lasso, calves as they run out,
Yeah.
and two guys chase them down. And I thought, yeah, you could do that. And I asked my son, I said, what do you think? It would be easier to lasso one of those calves, or easier to lasso a human? And he said, I think it'd be easier to get a human because we have longer legs,
Right.
and you can just catch. We only have two, and
Yeah, you catch one good and you're not going anywhere.
yeah, but it would take some training. Like if you watch the competitions, those guys are, well, granted they're on horses, but they miss the calves a fair number of times. And then
Yes.
some of the guys are really good and they hit it every time. But yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You've already got a situation where I think probably police officers in many parts of the world, definitely in America, are undertrained in hand-to-hand
Yeah.
restraining techniques. Like they really need to be training a few times a week in grappling, and then specifically in kinds of encounters where weapons and stuff would be involved, and
Yeah.
where it's like 2-on-1 and 3-on-1 and stuff like that. They need to be doing that every single week.
Yes.
And they're
Yeah.
not. They're training firearms and they're training crowd control and doing other stuff, but they're not training that. And I think that would be a lot of uh, benefit. That would be of a lot of benefit to police departments.
Yeah.
And it might not change the perception, because I think there's a big difference between the perception of actual violence, or like wrongful violence by cops towards civilians, versus the reality. I think there's a difference there,
Oh, for
because there's
sure.
politics and all kinds of stuff to get into it. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway,
And
yeah,
so and the complexities of the many different tyes of situations, like sometimes cops do bad shit and they shouldn't. And then sometimes they don't do bad stuff. They do exactly what they need to do, but because of where the way it was recorded and then the reactivity of the people, they make it look like it's bad stuff when it's not. And it's
yeah,
just and everything in between. So plus the dynamic, like, is the person in a car? Are they on foot? Do they have a knife? Do they have a gun? Are they crazy? Like, we don't know.
hmm
They got friends. Like, how do you respond to all these fluid? It's very fluid, very
yeah. What
complex,
what
very
was
fluid.
happening before the recording started?
Right. There's so
What
many
was happening
factors.
after it stopped? It's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I was wondering if you could give the full menu of what you do as a facilitator and a coach. I was wondering if you could go domain by domain
Oh,
through the existential work, consciousness work, the body work, the martial work, the coaching work. Like, I was wondering if you could give the full, um,
kind of like an
yeah,
overview
an overview,
ish.
yeah, of
Oh,
the
yeah.
domains that you work in professionally under any heading. Whether it's officially through a Cheng workshop or through a workshop that you've done independently or whatever.
Hmm.
Could you, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to get clear for myself, um, what what it all is, and
Hmm.
I realized I don't actually know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think in terms of sales and or people understanding what it is that we do slash I do, if they have no idea what I do, how are they going to communicate it to somebody else? Like, oh, I work with this guy. Well, what does he do?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
All right. The
Uh,
full
How does
domain,
that
the
sound?
full
Yeah,
that sounds great. Thanks,
and
man.
maybe
Appreciate
we
it.
could we do that?
I think so.
I want to write them down.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
where's my
think we can do that.
need a better writing implement. There we go.
All right. So outline all domains.
Outline all domains.
Okay. Shit, that's a lot of stuff. All right, I'm gonna do my best here. I don't have it fully organized in my head, but we'll go back and forth and we'll get there
See,
as best as we can.
organization.
Yeah, again, once again. All right, so domains. Obviously, let's start with the martial or the body stuff,
Okay, so body right
or
there. Which is bigger? I'd put martial inside body.
yes. So okay, so we want to do a full on all right, like an organization here of some kind. um well, maybe here's like the ways that I work with people.
Mm,
It's either in workshops or I've done 3-month programs, and workshops could either be 1 week long, 3 days long. Usually a standard workshop's like a week, so maybe we could just have that as a standard. I do have a 3-day workshop I've done, a weekend workshop I've done. Um, so there's that. Then that's like the how, and then and or 3-month program and or 7.5 or 8-month program. That'd be like apprenticeship stuff.
okay.
So now all of the workshops that I've done, I guess I could just list workshops off. Is that a smart way to go?
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm kind of trying to get like, yeah, maybe that's a good way to start
Or
it.
just lists of all domains?
Yeah, what are the domains? Because like I know like
Okay.
within Marshall you've got striking domains, you've got other domains.
Right.
Within consciousness work, you've got
I
different kinds of domains in that. And
I got you. Okay, okay. Yeah, here we go. So, within the body work, we've got body consciousness, which would be like body being. You could say that's like its own domain of study, body being. That's how to have an effortlessly effective body, structure, alignment, understanding, 3D awareness, awareness itself about the body, spatial relations, all that shit.
so that sounds very, and I know about this stuff, but that sounds for the kids at home. That sounds very independent of any specific sport or activity.
Totally.
It's like this is you as a human being in a body.
Right. You've got a body, you're in space, you're on the ground. Let's understand it. Now, how you use that, whether you're doing golf, cooking, flower arranging, martial arts, high impact sports, close quarters combat, whatever the fuck you do with your body, that applies.
And I found that to be the case because I,
Yeah.
I really found that to be the case very strongly in dancing.
Dance. We've had
Uh,
professional dancers,
mhm.
professional golfers. Um, we've taught all kinds of people, and not every single time they're like, oh, wow,
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
yeah.
Psychologist, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Skateboarding. I do skateboarding.
Sure.
I went skiing today. I don't know how much it helped with that. It was my first time. Kind of sucked.
We've had like professional musicians like have given feedback to Peter like, wow, it really helped with that. Opera singer who's also an ex New York Yankee, he's like, this shit's awesome. Oh, speaking of which, remind me, I'll send you a video of his kid hitting a baseball. Did I send it to you?
Nope.
Dude,
It's
he's
happening.
got this kid on body being and he's got him trained up. He's an ex New York Yankee, so I think he
Mm.
also had that. But let me see if I can send this. Oh yeah, here you go. Anyway, yeah, you can check that out. It's on WhatsApp.
All right. So you got the body being. So the
Body being,
general intelligence of the body
totally.
through
Will
time and
help
space to any
will
domain.
help you with whatever you do with your body. It will help you get better at that.
Okay.
No matter what domain you work in. So body being. So then we could go within the martial. So the main art is Cheng Tui Shou. What's Cheng Tui Shou? It's basically stand up, wrestly, grapply, throwy type of art. We could just call that Tui Shou.
Twee show, twee shao, twee shoe.
Yeah, however you want to
Do you
say
give
it.
it a do you care?
Cheng Tui Shou.
All right. That's
Like
funny.
sometimes people say Tui Shou.
Well, yeah, because when I was first learning Tai Chi, they called it Tui Shao, but I
Yeah.
guess they were calling it Tui Shao.
Tui
And
fucking goddamn boy, do you some Cheng
let's
Chen
do
Tai
some
Chi
Tui
Tui Shou.
Shao, Tai Chi Tui Shao. And then
Yeah.
I came over to France and they're like, Tui Shu?
Tui Shou.
Tui Shu?
Yeah.
All
And
right.
that, as you know, that's like the main, it's a huge art. To put it
Yeah.
in perspective, Judo, the entire art of Kodokan Judo has 40 techniques.
Hmm.
This art has upwards of 150.
Yeah. So let's
Plus
break this one
games.
down. Let's
Plus,
break this one down for a
okay,
little
sure.
bit. Okay, because I've thought about this a lot.
Yeah.
So you just tell me I'm wrong when I'm wrong.
Okay.
Um, Tui Shao is the way it's trained. It's no gi.
Right.
It's no gi grappling to the ground, not on the ground. In other
Like that.
words, we get you to the ground for the pin, we get you to the ground with the throw or the
Yeah.
sweep. But
Right.
we don't do a lot once we're there, except for just hold the pin for maybe a few seconds, then we get back up.
Sure. Yeah. We don't mess around. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's more in that sense, it's more like the way judo is usually practiced, or tai chi or aikido.
Yeah. Judo, if it's the stand up randori, not the newaza, which is like the mat work.
Okay. And then you've also, but it's no-gi, which is different than judo. Because
Right. We
although you
don't.
do wear uniforms, you don't wear any thick lapels that you grab and pull
Yeah,
people
and or
around
we
with.
don't typically count on to people having clothing. It's like, no, what do you got with a body? We don't grab the cloth so much. It's
Okay.
not that we don't learn it or play around with it, but that's just not really trained.
That's not the main thing
Not the,
for the
right,
art.
right,
And then I think of Cheng Shin Tuishao as being essentially it is judo or wrestling, tai chi or aikido, except that it has, unlike some of those, it has tons and tons and tons of live action dynamics and games that
right,
make it very real. And unlike those, both participants are most of the time um, obligated to not give physical resistance, or to
right.
only give physical resistance in very specific ways.
Like that, and or there's a huge. What makes it very unique is in its approach is there's a huge emphasis on not fighting strength against strength, which is to say that if somebody goes to apply, you cannot block people.
Hmm.
You must yield to forces, which means you create an ability to be mobile that other arts just do not have.
Yeah, so that it
Sensitive to
just
forces.
yeah, I've seen nothing, and all the dance, all the jujitsu, the judo.
Yeah,
I've never seen anyone with the pure mobility
yeah,
of someone who's been doing Ching Shin well and often and for a while.
yeah, yeah. No, nobody moves like that. Yeah,
This is a grappling art, but it's a non-resistant grappling art, and it covers a wide range of domains. You've
right.
got all the judo throws and sweeps.
Right. We do include judo in there pretty much like probably at least half of all
So,
judo.
so you have throwing and flipping and pinning, but
Flipping.
you
Yep.
also have projecting,
Yep.
and you have pulling and spiraling techniques.
Right.
So, and that's going to be, you're going to see some from time to time stuff like that in high level Tai Chi,
Sure.
similar,
Similar, yeah,
or
like that. Like some of the
Bagua.
movements would be, yeah, bagua maybe. Like some of the movements you may like, oh, that looks like some aikido, or that looks like some tai chi, projecting people through space. You
Which
know,
means pushing somebody off their feet and onto their ass a lot of the
right? Yeah,
time.
and then you go, well, what's the use? You might say from a anyway. Actually, no, maybe we don't need to get into the details, but might say, well, what's the use of that? It's like, well, for example, I have dodged a guy who was punching me and slammed him with my shoulder right in the ribs, and it's like that is that projection stuff.
Hmm.
Take a body, slam them into a wall, smack them, that kind of stuff, or
Hmm.
slam them, they come back, you throw them to the ground, these kinds of things, whatever. So
Hmm.
it's like the ability to manipulate a body in space, which is, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
want to
that's
come
part of
back to
it too.
this one because it's so
It's,
massive and cool, but let's
yeah.
keep going because there's so much more.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
What
true.
what
So,
else is there in the martial domain? Because it's not just the Tuisha. There's actually other stuff.
right. It's not just tweet show. I mean, so the tweet show includes the uprooting, throwing, and then I would say there's a whole bunch of games that we do. That's part of the tweet show, but like could be its own domain. But it's also part of it. You know, games like Game A, Game B, Game C, Game J. So, like the interactive games could say that.
Okay.
In addition to interactive games, then so you got your techniques, you've got your interactive games, and then there's a whole study of principles.
Mm.
See, principles is its own domain, as if. And this is the shit that's very advanced and it kicks ass. Teaching people how to align their mind, both their mind and their bodies, to a principle that allows them to create whole worlds of skill that they would not be able to create without it, and getting people to understand it and then implement it.
Dude, that sounds so cool. And I know a little bit about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody hearing that is going to just think, oh, that sounds really cool, and have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's the shit that when you talk to top level athletes, they usually have access to some of this stuff. Well, they're like, okay, I go into the zone and shit just works. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe that's a crude layman's way of talking about it, but it's something like that, where it's like they enter into another world where they have access to levels of skill that other people just don't have.
Well, you say principles is its own domain, and that kind of makes sense because Peter talks about how principles operate outside of any particular, the principle exists a priori to,
Independent of,
the activity that
sure,
you might find the principle within. But does Cheng Shin Tui Shao even exist without principles? Like, I don't think you can do Cheng Shin Tui
it's
Shao without
founded on
principles.
principles.
Yeah, like, how can you do it? Sucks without principles. Like, there's no,
Right.
it's just.
I was just saying, like, if we were to make domains, it's like
Hmm.
we could work just on principles.
Okay.
You see,
Okay.
like, we used to have a workshop, the principles of effective interaction,
Hmm.
and it's just about that.
Okay.
For
Okay.
example. So there's that domain. So then within the Tui Show art, as if, we also have a whole study like Tai Chi.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like there's a form involved, and then we only use the Tai Chi for the body being. So that essentially like rolls into the body being training.
Yeah. I kind
But
of
there
think
is
of Tai Chi as going there with the body being.
Yeah, but that is its own thing. Like it could just do Tai Chi. Um, then we have a sword set, so we do a little bit with weapons, but not much. And the principles that apply to striking also apply to the sword. So, but that's like a minor thing, in my
Yeah,
mind.
you do a
We're
little
not
bit of sword
reaching.
set and sword play. It's not
Yeah,
just the sword set.
right.
Okay, but then the striking, I
Now
guess.
that's its whole thing, like boxing and striking. We have
Mhm.
that as its own domain. So, like this winter coming up, just in a few weeks, actually, we're gonna do a boxing workshop. I'll be
Mhm.
teaching people just boxing.
Now this is founded all on principles too.
Right.
It's completely founded on principles. And now when you say striking, people think boxing, or here in France they say boxe anglaise, they mean Western boxing, but people
Right.
think Muay Thai, they think savate, they think karate.
Right.
So
This
when
is
you say
box
strike, what
anglaise.
is, yeah, so
Like
what are you allowed to hit with? What are you not allowed to hit with? And also, what distinguishes it from
other stuff.
other stuff, other forms
Sure.
of
Yeah.
striking?
So it's Western boxing, and I would say we do some of the most skillful boxing in the world. We teach skill. And what distinguishes it? It's just like Western boxing. So typically we train just with gloves on. We're not going to be hitting
Just with
below the
the
belt,
fists.
just with the fists. Yeah, primarily that's our primary mode of training. Now, the skills and the principles would apply to any form of striking.
Hmm.
So we could hit with the elbows. We could do knees. We could do round kicks, straight kicks like Muay Thai, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just the primary way that we train it is just with the fists. And then again, there's an emphasis on huge right away, no blocking. No blocking is like a standard. That's like one thing that we don't, that is probably makes it unique. Whereas everybody else will teach how to parry and counterattack and stuff. We're like, no, from the jump, No blocking.
Yeah, that would be like really controversial. Like I know if like most boxing coaches, if they heard that, they would be like, you're working with beginners. Beginners need to learn to cover their chin. They need to learn to block.
I
They're
would
not
agree
going to
as
be
well.
able to duck and weave with enough skill to keep themselves from getting hurt in the ring.
Yep.
What are you doing? So
Yep.
why go down that road?
I totally agree with that. And as a beginner, we also do teach people keep your hands near your chin, like protect your face with your hands and dodge. Why go down that road? Well, the way I see it is there are certain skills that you will not develop if you're coming from a blocking, not only physically, but in your mind.
Hmm.
And so from right away, no, you're going to learn how to move. You're going to learn how to not. I don't protect my body with my body. I protect my body with my awareness. And if you do, because I've worked with lots of martial artists, I've worked with people that have done boxing and stuff, and because they're blocking, because their mind is set to no, they are automatically doing shit with their hands that if somebody's halfway decent, they can start to play their nervous system and then take advantage of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, if you try to hit me, I'll get out of the way and my hands are free. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't learn that without training a lot of it and then training it, I would say from the beginning. So that's like our base. And of course, when you go in close or when you're in a bad situation, keep your hands up. I'm not saying don't keep your hands up. I'm saying learn how to dodge like a motherfucker because there are certain skills that you cannot have if you don't learn that.
Okay. And then so you could talk about the skills that are in inherent if you're not blocking as their
Totally.
own domains. Are they, because those are principles. I think of like cutting and leading and following and joining, and these
Yeah,
are principles.
right. And then those are those principles that we have, that domain, principles of effective interaction applied to striking or applied to Tui Show. You see, then they take different forms.
They show up differently.
They show up
And you
differently.
said they were also inherent in sword play. Like everything in sword play, you're going to see everything from striking in sword play.
Yeah, because it's essentially striking.
Yeah, with a
Like,
pointy stick.
right. It's like the getting touched is the damage pretty much. Whereas with grapply stuff, you get touched, you don't necessarily take damage.
Hmm.
You get touched and then you get manipulated or thrown down or swept or grabbed, wrestled and slammed or whatever.
Yeah,
Whereas when you're getting hit, like when you get touched really quickly, right there is the damage. So it's more
yeah,
of a strike, like that.
yeah. And it's even if you being a nerd, like I do this with my son, we do a lot of sword play because we've got rubber swords,
Yeah.
and we also do a lot of Cheng Shin striking. And the way we play it pretty much is if you get touched with the sword, you lose. We just start over. It's like every time you get touched, that means you're dead or
Yeah, sure.
very, very injured, and we just have to play that way. Whereas with the striking, you could get hit and roll with it, and you're not dead. You're gonna keep on moving
Sure.
around, and it's not like sword play. It's
Yeah.
somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we should keep
so
rolling too, because I need to stop at a certain. Yeah, I think
okay,
I keep nerding out
well,
accidentally.
did we eclipse it with body being and the martial? Does that kind of get into everything for the physical side?
Yep. I think we're good there.
Okay, so then we move into everything else.
Okay. So that would be essentially consciousness work and working with people, people's minds, essentially. And huge domain. So,
Where to start?
um, shorter workshops, so we could start. We got a weekend workshop, empowering consciousness workshop. That's just like a base level of here's like an introduction to consciousness work. 3-day workshop that I have done that we don't really do anymore. Communication and relationship workshop. The whole point there is to deep dive into what is communication, what is relationship, how does it exist. Not so much how to have a perfect relationship, which most people focus on the use and value and how to live their life, but more here's what these things are, here's how you can create them, now go create what you want.
And that's something that I think is unique about your work, more so than with most folks who do anything similar, is that you
We do
really do your
not
best to
tell
stay
people how
out
to
of
live.
telling people how to live. Yeah. It's not how to have the ideal relationship, because what the hell is the ideal relationship?
Right.
But it's about the existential fact of relationship, what it really is. You kind of like a mechanic or a physicist just breaking it down. What is this thing?
Right.
You get a deeper understanding. You get to decide what the relationship is that you want to create or not create, et cetera,
Totally.
et
Yeah,
cetera.
it is up to you. And we're very clear about that. We are not promoting a belief system. We are not telling people how to live. We are not keeping people here. That's the other side of it. Sometimes people are actually very often like, what are you running a cult? It's like, no, I'm not running a fucking cult. How do you know? Because those people aren't here and I don't care to have them here. Okay. Like when
You
you're
don't
done,
like people enough to have a cult. Okay,
right?
got it.
I will serve you. You will leave here with a deeper understanding, but you're going to go home. And I'm not telling you how to live. And I don't tell you what to believe. It's not
Roger
what we do.
that.
Yeah.
So, communication relationship, what's another one, another domain you work on?
Okay. So we do that like basics, communication relationship. Then there's like our flagship consciousness workshop. This is the experiencing the nature of being workshop. This is the workshop that is essentially related to Peter Ralston's The Book of Not Knowing. It gives a very broad foundation, and we do an in-depth look at like becoming conscious of the nature of being. Well, what the hell is that? It's like the nature of being a human. Like, what is experience? We look into how our experience is built. We'll look into communication. We'll look into some of the driving factors that have you do the things you do that like you say you might not want to do, but you keep doing them and you don't understand why. We'll like look deep into that. We'll look into, what is meaning, how, interpretation, how you interpret versus what things mean, and like why that all comes about, why you do as if what you're up to as a human being on a deep level. And then we take that in that workshop, we might take it all the way into looking into the existential nature of reality itself. Like, what is it? What is existence? What are you? Like, what are you really? What's your nature? We go all the way into that. Then we do some contemplation, wrap it up, and call it a day. So it's like basically a broad look, very
That's
foundational.
so that's foundational for everything. So it's it sounds foundational for everything. It's what reality is, but you start with what a human is.
Yeah, we start basic. We look into our experience. Can you notice that you have concepts, you have an experience, and then there's what things are? Like
Hmm.
say we break it down.
So you actually start less fundamental and you work towards more fundamental.
Yeah,
You start with the created construct and the person and everything, and then you work into
the existential, like what's really there.
hmm.
And then we do it, and I this is what I say about this is I didn't realize, like, I knew Peter was smart, but I did not realize how smart that motherfucker really is until I started facilitating these workshops. Like when I started to facilitate the ENB, the experiencing the nature of being workshop, then I realized, oh my god, the dude is a genius, literally a genius. Because I get to
Mm.
see how he built that workshop, and I'm like, holy fuck, who does that?
So the
Crazy.
guy's not just enlightened and insightful.
And a
He's
master
also
fighter.
and a master fighter. He's also got a really high IQ, and he
Yeah,
puts it together.
he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Okay.
And so there's
Well,
that.
shit. Yeah, but he's kind of an asshole. I mean, he's not everything. I
There's
mean,
that too. It's okay. He'll own it. He owns it. You know.
so, Okay, so that's amazing. So like what's a human being? What's reality? And then you come off of that with what is a relationship? What is communication?
Right.
But
It's kind of like we're looking into stuff. It's like a guided contemplation, if you will. What's a contemplation? Just looking into what things are, and then where we point that just depends on what we're doing. So we might go into the basics. We might look at communication. We might look at relationship. We might look at mind. We might look at interpretation and meaning, like how everything means everything. We might look into judgment, non-judgment. Like what is judgment itself? We look into that. See, so it's like we keep looking into these things
wow.
and we start to get an idea of like what's going on here on a much deeper level than what we
Mm.
live as the standard.
So you look at communication and relationship, you look at communications, and then you look at the flip side of that. You look at power dynamics and control and non-communication, manipulation, and that kind of stuff too.
As well, and then yeah, and then other stuff. So it's just like it's a broad, basically it's like you want to get into consciousness work, do the ENB. That's like the mothership, the one that's
Okay.
got a bit of everything, and we look into that, and it's just broad sweeping, lays the foundations.
And so then so many of your other workshops are just like kind of more focused on one particular aspect of
Sure.
mind or meaning or some such.
Sure. Like, something much more practical that we recently have is like the ending suffering workshop.
Suffering.
See, and that's going to be related to Peter's book, Ending Unnecessary Suffering, coming out in spring. You're welcome to pre order that. But it's all about this is very practical. Whereas in the ENB, we're like, don't go searching for use and value, just do the work and then you figure it out. This is like all about you suffer as a human being. It's unnecessary. Here's what that suffering is. Here's what it's all about. Now, here's how to stop it. Here's how to end it. Here's how to
Well,
free yourself.
ending suffering.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly when or where, but I think it must have been you or something. So, yeah, I think you boiled it down to three basic things like ending suffering, increasing power, and becoming conscious.
Oh, you mean the consciousness work?
Yeah. Power is in like making, more distinctions,
Yeah,
you
like being
know.
a more capable human being.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could think like consciousness work ends up going in the direction of happiness and freedom.
on accident.
Yeah, just like that's just a byproduct.
That's just the way it
If you
works.
do consciousness work, you will get happy and you'll become free. And then free to do what? Whatever you want, which means then you could have, say, more power.
Hmm.
Create the life you want to live rather than be dominated by your old programming.
So you get happiness and freedom, but it's by going towards the truth.
Right. It's basically what happens.
Okay. At the risk of skipping over something, what about going towards the truth? Like just full on contemplation of the nature of being. We've talked about.
Right. So like other domains. So you got your ENB, then you've got your ending suffering workshop, then sort of aligned with the ending suffering workshop, transforming experience of life, which is the context in which you live life where there's a bunch of limitation, da da da. Here's a new context for which you to approach life, which you can approach life that is more freeing, more powerful, etc. So like change your life.
Change your life, transform your experience of your life, the
Right.
whole way that you view
Yeah.
or
And
hold your life.
yeah, like that. And then you want to go advanced. We got some deep dive stuff. We got the transcending self workshop, and then Peter's got this transcending life and death workshop. These are the more advanced ones where we really look into the essentially both of them, as far as I can tell, look into the origins of self and other in a major way. And I don't expect people who are out there to understand that really. If you want to understand more, just go to the website, look it up. But that's the advanced shit that's very hard to get. And we don't need to go into that. And I think we're running out of time. But just put that as like advanced workshops,
Okay.
and then you have the workshops that are more straight contemplation. And these are the ones where you are going essentially for one thing: become directly conscious of what's true. You know, who are you really? What are you really? What's your nature? What's the nature of another life, the true nature. And again, I don't like using those words so much, but it's essentially what you're doing. You're going for what people call an enlightenment experience, a massive breakthrough, an insight into the nature of reality itself. And this is done directly, not like a process, direct, because that stuff is already true. You're just going to become conscious of what is already true, has been true since before you're born, after you're dead. It's what's true now. And we have a process for doing that. And essentially, it's sit down, contemplate, and we teach you how to contemplate, blah, blah, blah. And like, so that's like its own domain, I would say. Those are the more direct ones: insight and enlightenment workshop, and then contemplation intensive.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the workshops. In addition to the workshops, now, if you want to get more serious, I mean, these are already really serious and for really serious people, people that really want to put in a fuck ton of work, which that's what we do here. You can do a 3-month program, which we've had in the past, haven't had any recently, which is a live-in. Now we're talking people come, they live here for 3 months. They have a training regimen. They train all day, every day, 6 days a week, a little bit off on Sundays. And then they do that for months at a time. And then the most powerful programs, which, you know, we're not sure if we're going to do any more of these, but these are the apprenticeship programs. This is 8 months, very serious, very disciplined. You live here for 8 months. You do an 8-month training program, and then you go away.
Or some people just stay on for like 20 years.
Yeah, some of them do that. Just one guy. They keep coming back.
Just stop leaving.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it is a cult, it's a cult of one. All right.
I'm talking to him.
Right. I am the whole cult. So let's see. There's
Wow.
that, and then in terms, I'm just kind of pushing through a little bit here. I just want to make sure I get everything. Then I do stuff personally online. So you want to work with me online? It's one-on-one coaching. That's one of the things I do, and I have like courses online, and so does Peter. You know, it's like online studies, so you can like buy courses online. That's another domain in which you can work. And that's pretty much it that we have so far. I would like to get into some corporate coaching. So if
Yeah.
corporations wanted to hire me to work with their teams, that would be something. And then, but otherwise, that's what I currently have. How we doing there?
That's thorough. So to recap, you work in workshops of various lengths from a day up to 8 months long, and you do
Yeah,
private coaching as well. Um, and you work with the body. You do a lot of work with the body and the mind in general, body
yeah,
being the body mind. And
yeah,
then you do a lot of different martial work, all based on principles of interaction and all based on kind of the constraint of non-blocking, non-resistance, so that you learn skills that you won't learn otherwise.
yeah. And to be clear, it's not to say that we don't know how to throw people down or knock them out. It doesn't mean it's like wussy.
Oh yeah, it's
It
no,
looks like it. I understand, but from an MMA perspective. But no, we also deal in power and hurting people. So anyway, go on. Yep. Sorry.
consciousness work you do. Basically, you apply contemplation. You teach people how to contemplate,
Right.
uh, and you contemplate. Uh, you start with what very existentially what a human being is, what what a self is, what a mind is, what reality is itself in very specific ways, like what I am or what life is.
Yeah. Like we
And you
look
also
into these things. It's essentially consciousness work is, as far as I can tell, it's essentially one thing:
hmm,
wanting to know what stuff is,
hmm,
not like a belief, not like a thought, but an understanding,
yeah,
an increase in consciousness.
that surpasses all understanding. And ending suffering and getting free and happy is and transforming your experience of life, transcending self and life and death, or advanced stuff. What are the ways in which you have seen other people do things that you're doing in any way similar to what you're doing? In other words, like, do you see Tony Robbins or somebody else doing the kind of work that you do? Like, do you ever see somebody who's doing coaching and you go, "Oh yeah, like that's I know exactly where he's coming from because that's what I do." No.
No, no. Like Tony Robbins works with the mind. Okay. He works with changing people's perspective. Okay. I see that as like, do we do stuff like that? Sure. But like that? No, not at all. He's working with people to make their life better. And he's doing stuff that's like, as far as I can tell, very superficial. To the people he works with, they probably think it's deep, but it's like, yeah, change your perspective. So fucking what? Change your perspective and kick ass in business and make millions of dollars, fine, but it's still shallow. It doesn't
Okay.
touch on like fundamental realities. As far
Okay.
as I can tell, it's not very deep.
So you don't often hear somebody else or ever um going on a tirade of some sort and you're just like, yeah, that guy knows what's up or that gal knows what's up. That's where it's at.
Mm,
They're coming from a place of deep awareness, deep enlightenment, deep insight.
yeah, that's rare.
Hmm.
Very rare. Like when I see Rumi quotes, sometimes I'm like, "Oh yeah, he gets
Okay.
it." See, or like it depends, and it really depends. It really depends. You see, because I do think I am not saying that Tony Robbins is not doing great work. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Tony Robbins doesn't do powerful shit for people. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying in terms of like depth, it's like,
Hmm.
it's really good for people, but it's like,
Okay.
Um,
So then,
but I do
oh.
hear stuff like maybe Jesus might say something. Oh yeah, that guy gets it. Or like, you see, in terms of being conscious, oh yeah, he's had some understanding. I can hear it. I can hear he understands.
Hmm.
Or like some in landmark. So like, oh
Okay.
yeah, I can. They like, life is meaningless. Okay, see, got it. Yeah, they get it. We are meaning making machines. Oh, okay, yeah. See, I see. They see that part of being a human.
What are the uh well, I guess we can let people hmm. How what's it like for you to just list this stuff off and hear it reflected back a bit?
I mean, I'm grateful that you're asking the questions because essentially it gives me an opportunity to talk to people about what I do. That's the main thing that comes up. It's like, oh, thanks for
Okay.
thinking of me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. What do you think are the core needs that people are trying to meet when they come to these workshops? And I understand that there's a big conundrum here,
Yeah,
or it's not the point because use and value is not what you're at. And yet, I would maintain that nobody walks through your door if they're not looking for use and value.
yeah, and it's like I also want to share that it's a weird, yeah, it's totally conundrum because on one hand, what people do come here for the use and value, like that's why I came here. I was a young, unhappy, angry man, not even a man, a boy, and I was like, I want to fix myself. And
Hmm.
so I saw this work and I saw Peter Rollis. I'm like, holy shit, that's my ticket to fixing myself. Like somehow I'm like, that's it. That is the shit. And I can attest, like, it does the job. But the point, what's counterintuitive is that in order to do the job that consciousness demands, you can't be looking for what's useful and valuable. You have to want to know what's true, whether you like it or not. Like, and then for some fucking weird reason, when I discover what's really true, whether I like it or not, I'm happy. I'm not broken because the truth is there's no way I can be broken. Why? Because I know what I am. You can't break something that's unbreakable. Well, you know that. You see, and like, how do you discover that? By going to look for what's true, whether you like it or not. And it just so happens, I don't know, at the end of the day, is it useful and valuable? It's incredibly useful and valuable. Like, it's fucking, it has saved my ass more times than I can count. It has given me abilities that I would never, ever thought possible.
Mm.
I can think in ways that I would never have fucking known. I understand mind and how it works to a degree that many people do not have, which gives me a certain kind of power that they don't have. Why? Because I understand. How did I get that understanding? By going for what's true, whether I like it or not. So then, to answer your question, people come in. What are some of their needs and values? They want to be fixed. They think they're broken. They're unhappy and they don't know why, and nothing works. Some people, I think, but this is probably rare, are just genuinely curious. Like, they want to know. Like, we get a lot of software engineers and they come in and they just fucking think that way. They want to know they want to get into stuff. They're like,
Some
huh,
people just want to know how things work.
yeah. But I think that's rare. It usually comes from, why do they want to know how things work? Because they're fucked up.
Okay.
You know,
We're
just,
trying to resolve some sort of issue.
yes,
We have a sense that this is not right.
yeah, something's wrong here. I don't understand what's going on. I want to understand. And they probably have seen a bunch of bullshit and they're tired of it. You know, like, they've gone through some other spiritual places. Like, we had a woman, she's like, I've meditated for 30 years. 30 years. Nothing compares to this, for example.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
What are we like on time? I have more questions, but
Yeah, I think a couple more and then I should get going and then get ready for other stuff.
okay. Let's see. Do you use the word spiritual to describe what you do?
No.
Okay.
I
But
mean,
people might.
people would easily, because we deal in stuff like enlightenment, awakening, breakthrough, insights, blah, blah, blah. But spiritual, the way I see spiritual, I would say I am probably a very spiritual guy, but I hate being associated with, quote, spirituality as it stands for me now. When I look at the, quote, spiritual world, it's nothing more than a religion, belief systems, and hearsay.
Mm,
And we are not about religion, belief systems, or hearsay or dogma of any kind. It's just, we are not that. So
okay.
you see, what
But
I just,
you're also not describing a belief system around some sort of mechanistic deterministic philosophy of like sort of a cold
unfeeling
like
world that,
unfeeling world. There's
yeah.
no consciousness, there's no life, there's no I mean that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, very much alive. Love is present, you know,
Hmm.
happiness, whatever.
Beautiful. Okay. um Jeez. Okay, I'm gonna more personal. Okay, okay. Two questions. Okay.
All right.
Um, how do you teach a kid to strike and dodge like a genius? A 7-year old. Obviously, that's a personal question.
Okay, yeah.
How do you teach someone who's not really intelligent, whether it's because they're 7 years old or because they're just not particularly intelligent, but you still want to get across insights and depth.
Ooh. Are we just
You're,
talking Marshall?
yeah, we'll just stick to Marshall, but you know it never just stays there because it's based on principles and it can't.
Well, I do. That's a fucking weird question. One, well, with kids, I don't have much experience teaching kids, but my first thing right away, one, they got to be willing to train. So given they're willing, which they probably are, make it a game.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun. And so whatever it is, make it a game and then have you win the game by gaining the skill that you are wanting them to have. You know. And that's I think first and foremost, that's what I would do for kids. Now to teach somebody who's not that bright, um, Peter has mentioned something like this, and like it checks out for me too. Is you just train them like a horse. You give them one simple thing to do that, until they hammer it in. Do they know particularly what they're doing? No, but when it comes time to manage that punch or the strike or whatever, they do that. Why? Because that's what they're just trained to do.
Okay. So I can imagine he's probably worked with a few fighters or something like that who
Sure, they're
maybe
not the
yeah.
brightest bulbs. So like because you can't, as far as I can tell, you can't. Yeah, like harsh truth. As far as I can tell, if they're not bright, you can't just tell them, hey, look, uh, stop letting them hit you, and then you turn them loose, and then they fucking do it.
Hmm.
And most people, you can't even do that. Hey, dodging's important. Make sure you dodge. Most people will revert to what they think is right, and they don't listen. They just don't do it. Is it that they're willfully not doing it sometimes, but usually it's just they might even think they are doing it, but they just suck at it and they don't realize it. So you got to make correction and you got to do it again and you got to tell them to do it again. Make sure you're dodging. Did they hit you? No. Now where's your standard? Then I might work with their mind on that. But how do you teach somebody who's not bright, like some of the more advanced principles?
Hmm.
Ooh, that's a tough one, dude. I don't know. I really don't. I think it takes an unconventional amount of hammering if they get it at all, which they probably won't. And that's unfortunate. Some shit, you just need to be smart. And I don't know that I can train people to be smart.
Hmm.
I haven't really tried that too hard. But some people, yeah, but I have seen it. Like working with some people, it's like they just don't fucking get it until they do. And like, how do you bridge that gap? That's an impossible bridge. I don't know. I have not cracked that code because they have to do it internally. You know,
Yeah. Okay.
it's tough.
Um, how, okay, so use and value, and how do you keep going in your you've developed some powers and understandings and abilities that you never would have thought possible.
Sure.
Why not cash in and go the easy route and do the shallow thing and just give people 5 easy steps, make some money, go live on the beach, etc. What keeps you from going down that road?
I think it's too late. I'm too fucked up.
What do you mean? What
My
do you mean you're too
soul,
fucked up?
as it's like my soul won't let me. I can't.
So you're not too fucked up.
Well,
You're not
that's what
fucked
I
up
mean. It's
enough.
right. Depends on how it's like inside me, I'm too probably I don't know. Like one way of seeing thinking about it is I'm too aware of myself, and if I did go down that road, there would be consequences, and I don't want to live that way. I just don't.
Hmm.
I don't want to live like a liar. I don't want to live like a cheat or a sellout. I can't. It just hurts too much.
So what would be an example of a lie that you could tell someone that you're not going to tell someone, but what would be an example of a lie that you could tell someone to take advantage and to make it work out for you
Oh,
in
I
a better way,
mean, I wouldn't
so
necessarily
to
do a
speak?
particular lie, but if I was going to do it, and Peter talked about this too, but like just give people a belief system.
Mm.
I mean, I see it when I do workshops. I see it by like day 3, 4.
People are
Pe-
wanting it.
People
They
they
want you to tell
want
them.
me to tell them one how to live and give them something to believe in that they like. That's all I would need to do. And bammo religion, fucking money. Just look
Wow,
at like Teal Swan
your favorite.
or other spiritual like Sadhguru.
Okay.
You know, there's a reason why these people are very popular. They support belief systems.
They give them what the people want.
Oh yeah,
Bread and circuses.
yeah, and they fucking cash in big. It would be that dynamic. Whatever shit, and then we would have the one that's I don't know, committed to the hard work and the truth and brutal honesty, and it's like that's our belief system. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, buddy. I think those are all the questions that I have that I drummed up for this
Thank you.
round.
I appreciate you.
Sure thing.
I hope it serves people.
Served me. It helps kind of clarify for me
Yeah.
kind of
Why did you
the
ask those questions? Just
well,
out of curiosity.
I was thinking about you, man. I was talking with Eliza, and I was saying how I know that you are the cult, and I know that you are the disciple and the devotee of Peter Ralston.
Did you
And
say the cult?
nah, well, I said it because you referred to it earlier as
Oh,
like if
okay.
it's a cult, it's a cult of one, the guy who stayed for 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's such an amazing and remarkable and admirable person
Yeah.
that it's totally understandable. And yet I just wanted to hear what you do,
Mm.
whether it's under the Cheng Shin umbrella or not, because I see you as someone who stands in his own right as someone who can provide a service
Mm.
to people that, like, if Peter Ralston was to die and today, you know, um, what would happen to your ability to serve people? Would it go away?
No.
No, no, it wouldn't. And
Yeah.
would it be somehow less valuable? No.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about, well, what actually are all the so-called quote unquote services? What are
Right.
the domains? What are we actually talking about here?
Yeah.
And you're talking about a fierce, well, I don't want to put a belief system on it, a commitment to really knowing what is the case, what's true, what something is, and in a wide variety of domains. It's a beautiful and an amazing work, and I think it's great, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Got it.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that was what I suspected, but I was just curious what the
Well, you're good at understanding minds, so you probably pierced through that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Thanks.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
well, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm gonna skip. Well, I'll stop this. We'll debrief and then I'll skedaddle. Um, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast, John.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
I see what you're doing. Appreciate it. That's nice of
Hmm.
you. And
Come,
what?
come do a workshop.
Yes, sir. Come do a workshop. Yeah, I've been talking to Peter about it, and he's like, I've been doing some other video stuff with him, and he's been saying it's like, yeah, it's like, why would I say come to a workshop? It's like, cause the workshop, if like what actually makes a difference? What made a difference for me doing the work? What makes a difference for people doing the work? Where's the best place you can do the work? At a workshop. It's like, doesn't, you know, do I say come to a workshop because I want the money? It's like, yes, it would be nice for me to make a living doing this stuff. Why? Because it's worthwhile shit to do. Am I exorbitantly rich? No. Do I make a fuck ton of money? No. Could I make a fuck ton of money? Yeah, if a fuck ton of people came.
And you also have a regular monthly call that you do with people.
Yes, I do have a monthly call. So
Because I
yeah,
was
if you want to
thinking,
do it light, come to that.
well,
Oh,
no, no, hold on, hold on. It's
oh,
not necessarily light because if you do a workshop and then you go home and you just sort of you bifurcate your life and you put somehow you manage to put workshop in workshop land and the rest of your life in life land.
Yeah.
You stay connected, you stay involved, you stay in the mode, you make it a
Yeah.
part of your life to remain contemplative.
Yeah. Well, even better,
Hmm.
I launched with this guy, Victor. We launched something called Consciousness Weekly. It is a weekly newsletter. It's free. You sign up, you get a little weekly bit of consciousness work to do. And then every Sunday, like I've got one today in a next couple of hours, we do a meeting.
Every Sunday. Sounds just like a religion, dude.
It's fucking come to church
But isn't that the original meaning, a reason for a church, It's for people to get together once a week
and pray or whatever.
and well, yeah, pray or whatever, but yeah, for a moment,
Yeah.
you put down you get it getting caught up in your life and look at something deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do that every week. And that's free. So you want free entry, Consciousness Weekly. I'll link it in the description.
I
You
think that
want
would be good.
you want a little bit of work with me every month. You'll stay connected. Yeah, like that stuff. And then if you still want to get serious, then this is why we tell people to come to a workshop, because the workshops make a difference. Like they make a fucking difference. That's why I'm so adamant about it. It's like that makes a difference. That will kick your ass. That will move you much faster. Like I said, the woman, she's like 30 years of meditation. You do a 1 week workshop. 30 years of meditation doesn't hold a candle to the kind of power we're talking about that we can do because we're live, because you have somebody that's with you working. Like that's why. You know, it's up to you whether you come or not. But if you want to make progress, you got to do a workshop. Just you have to. Like, I don't see another way. You're not going to do it on your own. You just won't. People sometimes say that, like, oh, I could do it on my own. No, you can't. No, because you won't. Your mind is too strong. I mean, that's just true. I've never seen it ever. I'm sorry, not sorry. So yeah, that's the main reason why. Whether you come or not, that's up to you. I don't care. But if you want that progress, do a workshop. It's a no-brainer.
It's not a no-brainer. That's a lot of brain, dude.
It is a lot of brainer. You use so much of your mind that eventually you're like, fuck, and then you have to use something else, this other option that we call becoming conscious, which doesn't need your mind. But that's another story. Come to a workshop to find out more. Thank you. Anyway, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Sure thing.
All right.